All right, we are live at Social Selling Hour. This is July 24th, first, not the 21st, 4th, July 21st. It's a great way to start off the hour. Trying something new today. We're going to do kind of an open mic kind of community chat while we are doing the Social Selling Hour chat on Twitter. So might not have a lot of eyes on the camera, but we're going to kind of create dialogue as we go. So Brian Fanzo from Phoenix, Arizona, checking in today, and we'll kind of walk down the line with Zach next.
Hey, this is Zachary Jeans. I'm up in the Portland, Oregon area.
And we have and then of course the co-host and brains behind Social Selling Hour. Rachel's next.
Hi everyone, Rachel Miller tweeting from Southern California today.
Awesome. And then last but not least, John, a previous guest, our first guest that we had on Social Selling Hour.
Yeah, hi everybody. This is John. I'm down in sunny Carlsbad, San Diego.
Very nice. So everybody on the West Coast time zone, even though we have to tweet out always the 4 p.m. Eastern time zone, since it seems like Twitter always revolves around that as the time. But so today we're doing the topic of active social engagement, attracting attention, and I kind of attracting attention is an interesting one for me because I saw a Seth Godin keynote about, I don't know, 4 months ago. I was at Icon, and his entire keynote, of course, like we talked about last week on the show, was about attracting attention. And I was at Social Fresh East last week, great event down in Orlando, Florida, and so many of the people were talking about great content they were using, great stuff that they were doing, and then anytime someone brought up social selling, they seemed to talk about doing the direct messaging, doing all of the things that are like the one-off. But when it comes to creating content and attracting attention, a lot of the sell, I think a lot of the debate is, how do I get the right content in front of the right people, and so that they can actually, have kind of conversations. So, leading into that first question is, how can one use Twitter to attract attention without feeling pushy or without link dropping? So that's really the idea on that one. And I know we got a good group going on the Social Selling Hour Twitter chat right now. I know Rachel just posted question number 1 out there. And so, yeah, so I mean, attracting attention without feeling pushy, a lot of what I try to do is I've come into the habit of creating graphics and stuff of content, even if it's not my content, creating my own graphic or my own, custom quote box of something that I liked inside of a graphic, because I think it not only attracts attention better in the Twitter feed if someone's using pretty much anything except for Hootsuite because Hootsuite doesn't use the embedded pictures right now. But I think that's one of the things for me is really listening to what they are complaining about and then trying to share content that helps answer their question is really what I focus on.
Yeah, I like to add additional. So, like, I might take somebody's really solid thought that they put out in a tweet, and a lot of times they go, "Oh gosh, I can see it's not getting picked up, right? But it's a killer thought," and I go, all it needs is a picture, and so I'll slam over to Google and I'll do a screenshot of something, and I'll add the modified tweet up there and throw it up there, and boom, all of a sudden, people are, oh hey, And a lot of times the other person who threw out the thought, they had no idea that, the value of being visual. So
for sure. Yeah, I think the value of being visual is starting to catch on, more, but it's still something, especially, I love and use Hootsuite a lot, and I think a lot of people, even have asked me, like, why do you take the time to do the pictures? As, a lot of people, depending on your audience, how many people are actually going to see that, but that's slowly changing. I think there's a lot more people that are now seeing the embedded lines, especially on Twitter side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the visual is excellent, and I think it's a great way of getting across something quickly. But I think it all goes back to making sure that you're selective and you understand what's of value to the people you're trying to provide content to, and making sure it's relevant. But I love that tool you pointed out a few weeks ago, Brian. I think it was Canva, was it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I've used that. That's a really good tool. But I really do think that there's so much noise out there that visual really does help.
Yes, big fan of Canva. it's funny. I was doing, I was live tweeting from that event this past week, and I was dropping quotes up there from the WordSwag app on my phone, and then I was creating some canvas for some of that live tweeting. And I think that's part of the social selling aspect is if you're at an event or you're discussing a topic and you want to stand out. A great way to do it is everybody's posting the exact same quote. Because if you have someone like there's Jay Bears and Sarah Evans and the ones that present really well, they do a great job of giving you those quotes. But how are you the one that stands out to kind of that people are not only going to retweet or share, but that shows that you're kind of going above? And I used a ton of canvas. I was trying to look at the number of canvas I used just in the last week. I think it's close to so just like last week alone, I think I have 27 that I created. So
yeah, I'm signing up for Canva right now as you sell them.
All right.
I'm actually checking them out. That's great.
Yep. Yeah, and like PicMonkey and all of those.
A lot of times I'll just use PicStitch, or I'll rearrange photos inside a Google Gmail. Because Gmail, you can do simple photo editing, drag and drop to your desktop.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. And actually,
visuals are great. I don't know if I missed it earlier, but I think when you're first starting, just to make sure your tweets are seen, or to use the right hashtags. Even if you are using great graphics, if you're not using hashtags, no one's going to see them. Yeah,
and actually, this is, the Twitter chats. Kylene had posted on Social Selling Hour. It's so funny because so many of the conversations are, we want to talk to the community, talk with the community. I use have conversations, not make communications. And especially when the sales side, when you're building the relationship, I don't know, John, what about you from a standpoint of is there other Twitter chats that are focused more maybe even on the subject, not really on social selling, but on the area where you're, focusing or helping people with making a sale? Because I think the Twitter chats are powerful if you can find the right chats.
Yeah, they are. There are a couple of other ones that the names escape me right now because I tend to go to some of them randomly these days. I haven't found any that are kind of ones that you really need to be on because I think a lot of them get confused between social marketing and social selling and just social media in general. So finding things that are very much targeted to social selling exclusively is quite difficult.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, to be honest, I think the overall chat, the calendars, and I've had this debate multiple times and talked to a couple of the people that are running the Twitter chat clients, is that there's still really no master list of understanding where the chats are or even Hangouts. Like someone asked, I was doing a little bit of a panel discussion on just how much I love Hangouts and finding Hangouts that I learned stuff from, and they're like, well, where do you find them? And so much of it's well, I have a notification set up for this person who happened to share it onto, and it's so hard. There isn't a way to go hey, I care about mobile apps, and I want to help. I want to make a social selling attempt with some, the community of mobile apps. There isn't really hey, type this into Google Plus and you'll find all of the Google Plus Hangouts for mobile apps or anything.
Right. Yeah, it's still sort of word of mouth, isn't it?
Yes,
and,
it is.
Even with the lists, and in some of the lists, if you actually Google and find some chat lists, holy cow! Some of them are so outdated and not, curated well. There are some of those. If you look around Twitter, you'll see some of these aggregators that actually, I want to say, there's one called Chat Salad or something like that. Yeah, and they do a pretty good job of staying up to date on what chats are happening.
Yeah, they do, and also there's something about I made the Google Plus the Google Calendar, the external Google Calendar, because I won't know about chats without the notifications.
Right.
And for me, you have to have it in my calendar, or if I don't if I get the 5-minute warning through the Twitter feed, a majority of the time it's not going to happen.
Right.
All right. Yeah. So Nikki in the chat also said Canva is a great tool. Cross-engage consumers. One of the things I found really interesting, so question 2, what outside of traditional social networks can you do to get your message out there and build your personal brand?
Well, what do we really mean about that question? My question is, are we talking about traditional media like marketing, or are we talking about events, or
So where it spurred from was I was talking to Tim Rubin kind of about commenting on blog posts.
Ah,
And
yeah.
if your audience isn't sitting there staring at a Twitter stream or even really
Right.
staring at their LinkedIn stream, but when they go to LinkedIn, they go to a certain group.
Hmm.
If you're commenting on that group, and and even going outside of LinkedIn, so one of the people had asked, like, hey, what about some of the mobile app tools, like, and so like
Sure.
one of them is Jelly, using Jelly, that app where people are asking questions, and if you're able to search and filter and answer people's questions that are asking questions on Jelly, which is a mobile app, but it's much like Quora, and I know Rachel is a big user of Quora. Do you guys use Quora?
I do. I don't use it a lot, but I definitely have a profile there, and I've answered a few things.
Yeah, I'm the same. I've signed up for it, but I'm not sure how well I use it. But I'll tell you, interesting, Brian, there's a couple of other interesting ones that I do. Number one, I write a monthly article for Direct Marketing News, and I think that if you can get articles published on any online or even good old print magazines, I think that's a great way of building your profile. And also, I did a radio interview on Sales Lead Management Radio a couple of weeks ago, and in fact, I think some of the folks in Pipeline also did interviews on that in the last week or so. So there's a lot of things going on, and somebody mentioned podcasting and getting guests. So I think there's a lot of tools like internet radio, like podcasting, like writing articles, where you can really build and expand your network, but in a very kind of value creating way.
Agree. I love that's actually exactly where I was going with this question, and Zach goes back to like the podcasting question, because if if I there's a reason that I don't have a homepage for my blogs, is because that was a lot of work for me to do it. And I started writing my blogs on Medium and started writing blogs on LinkedIn Publisher, and then doing guest blogs. And I got the question, and I'm actually writing a post for it this week on like why was I only really posting to third-party guest blogs, and the reason is like I knew that's where my community was, and why would I need to attract them to another location when I could go get my information presented in front of them without having to. Now, granted, there is definitely an advantage to having your own blog, and I understand that side, but part of this third-party blogging craze for me is if I don't want to have to take them away from where they're already at. I want to get my message
Meet them
in
where
front of
they're
them.
at.
And if that means and that's something like if you can get syndicated on Forbes and you're getting your information to Forbes, just that alone gets you in so many more people's feed that maybe they don't use any social network, but they get an email, their email subscribers to Forbes, business channel, whatever that may be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think something that's missed by folks who want to own all their content on their website. They go, well, we're going to have it one or the other. Why not have it everywhere? Because guess what? There are an awful lot of folks, especially when I wrote a piece about the millennial generation, they don't go to your website, period. Like, they just don't. If they don't see it in their stream where they're at, the click-through rate to websites for millennials is like very, very low. So why can't your content live there? And if you're driving traffic, at some point to a consumer product, or if you're a B2B, to a listing and some sort of exchange, then gosh, you could also have that in your Medium post or in the comments section. So I say, gosh, if you have a blog, post it everywhere. Why not?
Yep. Does anyone here use Reddit very often?
I'll read some Reddits, but I don't get in there because it's just, for me, it's just another place to invest my time, and I'm already kind of overly invested. So
you and me both. I feel like I've always missed the boat on Reddit. I really have always wanted to be really good at Reddit, but I do go in there. But one of the people that I was talking to that was doing a lot of selling on Facebook, surprisingly, she realized that her community, if they were going to spend any time getting tech news, and this was like small business tech news, they were only going to Reddit. So she started posting her posts from Facebook into Reddit, and was amazed at the amount of people were directing from Reddit into her Facebook page, which surprised me.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think you mentioned Forbes earlier, getting into places like that. I wrote something, or something was written that I contributed to Forbes about 3 years ago that still comes back to me. I still get people contacting me, or I still see it getting posted and shared 3 years later.
Yeah, which is I guess think that's part of the power too. And like I'm a big fan of if I know that someone has done a really good job of getting in my feed and getting in my area, and they want me to guest post, like they don't have to sell me on it. Like whatever they've been doing to get in my view, hopefully my community is looking at a similar view, or I can share that element. It's a lot of it's getting that attention. Question 3 we have, like investing time on LinkedIn. Where and what should I be doing? That's an interesting one.
Well, I definitely think that you aren't wasting your time to post to LinkedIn. I find that a few brands that I work with, one in particular, they continue to add folks that follow them. They're usually, when I look at their metrics, they're people who are in their case senior management, and it's all about the kinds of things that I'm working with them to get them to share and post. And they don't have a group. They aren't doing a lot of that. They aren't doing heavy recruiting through LinkedIn, but they're there, and folks are. I'm seeing the stats. Folks see what they're doing, and they're legitimate people that would be interested in their service. So, yeah, I think it's hugely valuable.
Yeah, I do too. I use the publishing feature quite a lot now in LinkedIn. I find it I get a lot of traffic through it, a lot of feedback, and I actually get a lot of direct connections coming through that way. So it's definitely been a nice addition to the LinkedIn engagement toolset.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm tweeting this out right now, but like what I've noticed is if I'm following or engaged with somebody that's posting really well on the LinkedIn publisher, and then commenting in their comment section, but really commenting and then kind of continuing the conversation rather than just saying great post, or that's part of the reason why I never commented like on internet articles, because before Disguise and a couple of these other ones that give you email notifications when someone replies to you, I felt like I was always like it was post and forget, like, hey, great post, I read it and shared it. But what I've really noticed is like my LinkedIn notifications, like even yesterday I probably commented on 4 or 5 blog posts that I really got value out of, and I was continuing the conversation, and when I went back I had 9 replies just to my comment on someone else's post. I wouldn't say I was hijacking their post, but I got a lot of information out of it, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, they aren't complaining either. That whole hijacking thing, I mean, so long as you truly aren't, competing and selling on their post, I mean, hey, that their post is only going to get seen more as the algorithm goes, oh, there's activity. So
yep.
I think
that's actually the dream scenario.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think some of our sensitivities, our social sensitivities, we need to just make sure that they're right and in line with the way the actual substructure of the platform works. If we go, oh well, I don't want to comment if I'm not saying anything other than great post or whatever, because maybe that won't mean anything. Oh no. I mean, the algorithm cares, and if they care about their brand and their post, then they could have 1,000 of those, because it's actually going to surface it to more eyeballs. So yeah. I think if you really think it's a great post, just say it. You know?
And there's always an opportunity then for the author, to follow up with you and say, well, why did you, what about it did you find interesting? Yes. And then you get a conversation. But yeah, I mean, I think, and people are, welcome to hijack any of my stuff. I mean, it's all about having a conversation and engagement. And to be honest, what I like about the LinkedIn publishing platform is it's very easy to quickly see the content that really kind of resonates with people as opposed to the content that doesn't. So it's a good way of kind of almost learning yourself what's valuable to your audience.
Yep.
Yeah, and one of the other things, I don't know if you guys use LinkedIn Pulse, but I had the opportunity to sit down with Jason Miller, who's the I can't remember if it's director or vice president of content marketing for LinkedIn, and he was he was sharing with us how SlideShare selects which SlideShares are on their Today page, and then there's this like master algorithm on how they get a post into Pulse. But part of that thing, what I've started looking in Pulse is if it's getting in Pulse, the views and the shares, and of course, go way up. But what I've started to look at is like, okay, if I know my target is tech, if I can see what LinkedIn adds to publisher for tech or from publisher in the tech, I want to know who these people are so that I can follow them on other social channels as well. This whole idea of that, find your influencer, find out who influences you. I think publisher is giving us insights to that maybe we haven't delved all the way down yet.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just an interesting feel. Now that we're getting all these people that are, they're sitting there now sharing their thoughts in a technically controlled environment, because Medium, which I was using for a long time, I always loved that, because if I had to type in like life hacker, I would find out everybody who had a passion for being a life hacker on Medium, and that was kind of interesting to me, because then I wanted to follow them on Twitter so that I could get their stream in one of my feeds and then add them to a Twitter list. And now I've kind of I've divulged in and hopefully found a whole bunch of new people that I've never engaged with before.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Let's see. So we got a question for Rachel? All right. Question 4 we have, why would you use G+ for social selling? So I wrote this question, and I did it based on a really fun debate with someone that's really power user of Google+, and the communities, the close-knit circles that are on Google+ are partially my favorite. I often complain that I feel like when I get inside Google+, it's a time suck, because I get so lost and drilled down and everywhere.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed is like some of the communities that I'm joining now and kind of participating on Google+, the activity there is, not only are people posting and sharing stuff, but they're sharing like strategies on how they're using certain tools, how they're, one of the things where someone asked me like, hey Brian, if you were using social selling for enterprise social software, where would you look first? And I was like, there's a group I'm on, a community I'm in G+, and everyone shares every tool they use for social, and they give you the good, the bad, the ugly, and it's very raw. But if I was in that market and I was a salesperson in social enterprise tools, I would live in that community, because it's like a hotbed for feedback. Any of you guys had any luck with Google+ in that area?
So I use Google+ not to talk social, and because there's just a prolific amount of people that are social that talk about social. But I love finding industry stuff. So like, I have an interest in Salesforce. There's a pretty good Google+ Salesforce group. There's leadership. So I'm with Lead with Giants. So they have a strong community, and so that's all about leadership and change management. And I find the same sort of principles you're describing happening there. That people are going in there. They all work in the same field. They're sharing. This is how I'm doing this presentation. This is a technique that You see how they're just delivering content, what's working and successful. And I think Google+ is sort of like, it's what LinkedIn groups could have been if they would have gotten visual. LinkedIn could have owned this, but I think they sort of abdicated it when they wouldn't get visual, and you couldn't. I think that they gave up that, and with the YouTube Hangouts, they didn't have the infrastructure to meet that demand. Now maybe they will someday. They could, but yeah, right now I think Google+ is the best place to build that. It's free.
Yeah, I think it's still somewhat though early adopter though, because there's a lot of people I know who still aren't using don't leverage Google+ that much. So I think it's definitely still in its kind of early adopter phase.
Yeah, and I agree with the early adopter part. And part of what I've been finding out is like, I think there's a little bit different between social sharing and then like feedback dumping. I don't I'm not going to post 140, and I'm not really going to even share it on LinkedIn on saying like, hey, I reviewed this tool and this is my feedback. But I will go to a Google Plus community that is about that and share all of my feedback about that tool. And even if they're not your target for selling, if you want to pick apart your competition, it's a great thing if you're inside Google Plus and you follow people that are sharing insights to why they love or hate the tools that you're going up against. I think that's a social selling, like, give me more social intelligence. Like, I love that idea.
Are we ready for the next question?
Yeah, let's rock and roll. What's the next one?
I thought we'd all gone off to Hangout and Google Plus and start building
There
communities.
you go.
No, it is for me personally, my experience on Google Plus has been really dismal. I haven't found any active communities, and I understand the SEO value. I can see everybody on Twitter is getting excited. Yes, it has SEO value, but I can post the same thing on Twitter and get a half dozen responses immediately, and on Google Plus, nobody responds.
Sure. Well, did you guys see what's his name? I can never pronounce his last name. Todd Q with the green hair, lives over in Japan.
Yeah. Todd,
okay. Yeah. So Todd put out an interesting thing about G Plus this weekend. He said that the top 50 users or 50 plus users are all Japanese teenage girls that are in this like Japanese teenage show, and so that got my attention. I was interested in seeing. That's definitely consumer side, but to own that level of dominance on a global platform is fascinating to me. So it's kind of a little side pet project. I'm interested in finding out what are they doing. Obviously, it's the content. They are the content, and they're resonating with their crowd. But how are they doing it? What's sparking that? Oh, I've got to see her video, or I've got to watch them do this. What is it in that can apply to a brand and to your market and spur people's emotions more around your brand? So that's fascinating to me.
I look forward to the case study.
Yeah. Same with Bethany Moda and YouTube. I mean, figuring out why her checking out makeup and what she bought it on her shopping trip. That's not just. I mean, she figured out a way to share herself that millions of people resonate with.
Are those two examples? Are those B2C?
So in Bethany's case, it was her initially just being her, and then of course along the way she started gaining some traction, and she got branded, and now she's got to deal with, I think it's American Eagle, to do fashion. She's doing a road tour this summer. So yeah, I don't know. It's just that she's an interesting one. And so what I did is actually, on YouTube, how you go back history-wise, you can get a visual of all the video, what do you call it? Just pick clips of seeing, and you see one frame. And I did a graphic to show from video 1 all the way down to her current video, and to see, you can see it's almost like a rainbow, a change in the way she's displaying herself as she's modifying her personal brand. So,
wow.
Yeah. There's something we can learn definitely from B2C type situations.
Yeah, there's a slide deck I'm going to have to find from Jason Miller presented it at Social Fresh, and he talked about B2C using LinkedIn showcase pages, and I can't find it right now. I just tried to find it real quick, but he talked about Suave deodorant using it there, and they're posting a lot of their videos and their content on the power of being in control and being calm under pressure. And I thought it was genius because if someone shares a deodorant commercial on LinkedIn, no one's gonna share that. But it's all this life hacking, productivity, staying cool under pressure. I thought that was a great way of diversity using the platform.
Right.
So I think we'll jump into question 6 there. What quick wins can you document from social engagement to be able to build a long-term relationship? And kind of I'll give a little background of where this came from. Is so many people talk about the importance of relationship building on social selling, and it's a long game. But I wrote that blog post about please, social media managers, community managers, don't give up. And it seemed like so many people are frustrated because they understand that they have to create a long-term social relationship before they can make the sale. But to do so, they have to be able to tell their boss what they're doing has value today. So that's kind of where this question came from. So I know one of the ones I always talk about is screenshotting the awesomeness. So I know I probably beat that to death, but I believe that little interactions with influential people or people that normally wouldn't reach out and they're commenting, being able to screenshot that so that when someone asks you what the hell have you been doing on Twitter all day, you can say, hey, here's my screenshot of what I've done.
Yeah. How long did it take you to reach out to that person?
And I think also if you can leverage maybe a small kind of tracker that you build in Excel that shows you, here are the engagements, the tweets or whatever, here are the ones that turned into direct engagements, and start to be able to show your sales manager that there's actual progress and you are progressing and connecting with somebody, and it's not just about sitting with your feet up messing around on social media all day. I mean, it's definitely an issue. I've spoken about this before. In most organizations, if you said to your sales manager, I'm going to knock off at 3 o'clock today to go to a networking event at the Marriott down the road, he'd probably say, yeah, cool, and love to hear love to hear all about it. But if you came by and you were sitting on social selling hour, you probably be, well, what the heck's going on here? Why aren't you on the phone? Why aren't you So I think there's a real education that needs to take place, and I think it's worth your while if you're a salesperson to actually put together a little tracker and then start showing the impact of what you're doing so that they can understand that it is actually progressing your sales.
I love that idea. Hey, Rachel, with the CRM element, or is there a way? I mean, are people documenting social milestones in building a long-term relationship differently than they would in a traditional sales relationship?
I think for sure. I think it's much easier to document just because if your CRM is able to pull in data from your social streams, you can quickly see, okay, I sent him a tweet 3 weeks ago, then we connected on LinkedIn, then I sent him an email, and now we're having a phone call. It's incredibly easy, almost automatic. There's no manual effort involved. However, I am a Nazi about my spreadsheets, particularly when tracking communication with influencers that I'm targeting. I will be very tactical in how frequently I contact them. But for a general prospect, your CRM these days should be able to handle that tracking for you.
Nice.
I'm so happy that the lawnmower man has gone away.
I like what Brian says about the screenshot, and I do that. One thing I also add to that, Brian, is I like to add context, because it may be obvious to me, and maybe obvious to anybody who's on Twitter regularly or G+ or wherever, who this person is, and if they're an influencer in terms of numbers and scope and scale of their own personal network, then you need to show that. So I'll take a screenshot as well and maybe pick stitch that together with their bio. Like, this is who they are this is their numbers, right? And if that particular tweet got retweeted a handful of times, I'll pull it up in Buffer or Social Bro and throw some metrics on that actual tweet and screenshot that. And so you deliver basically this very quick, it took you 2 minutes to grab all that, right, paste it together and type out a line and throw it into your internal chat, wherever it is, whoever you're reporting to. That will give context for people. And they're like, it goes from, oh, I guess that person's influential. Oh, wait, I get that person's influential. Wow, look at the spread on that. And if they get feisty about it, I say kick it back, like you were just saying. Kick it back to them and challenge them and say, well, like John said, well, look, I mean, how many handshakes and hello and highs at this Marriott meeting would you have had to do to have that kind of spread or that kind of opportunity? It's unreal what you can accomplish on social.
No,
and definitely the amplification possibilities are so much greater than, face-to-face events are still amazing for building that relationship, but as far as amplifying your brand message, connecting on social is a much faster way to do that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, just take even the chats like this one. Think of the people in the, what did you say, it was 10 weeks now this has been going on?
12th week. 12th.
Wow, so time has flown.
Wow.
How many people that everybody who's been engaged with it is connected, with people and, across the globe, but people with, shared interest and things of value to exchange with each other. Your chances are when you go to your physical networking event, you'll be lucky to get a couple of people. You'll come out with a couple of cards that maybe are worthwhile, pursuing, but you'll end up in a lot of conversations that you really just want to extract yourself from because you're not talking to the right people.
Sure.
Yeah, I think
There's
and
also
that's part of the the nice part of here is doing it, being able to everything's documented for you for the most part, but there's also easy way to kind of be in more than one conversation at a time. Like I can't tell you how many times at like live events I feel like if I was participating online, I could talk to all 8 of these people instead of just the guy that's sitting next to me. Oh, did we lose me?
No, you're there.
You're there. We just lost. You're back. We just lost your video feed.
Okay. Oh, still here. All right. So what question are we on now?
question 7.
All right.
Which is, how does blogging affect your ability to attract attention on social? Which this is a good one for both Zach and John, because I know you're both avid bloggers.
Yeah, I personally, I think it's huge. Whether it's writing blogs or contributing articles to online publications, it absolutely helps credential you. It shows that you're somebody with something of interest to say, and it's great in generating connections and great conversations, which lead to. As in the context of social selling, which can lead to sales engagements because people, like I said, can see you have things of value to say, some surprising insights that maybe you have, and they start thinking, wow, maybe this guy can actually help me in my business. So I think it's absolutely huge. And if you're not a good writer, I would really encourage you. You may have good ideas, but you're not particularly good at writing. I would encourage you to work with somebody in your marketing department or somebody who is a good writer and say, here's what I want to say. Can you put this in a nice blog post for me, and then you post it under your own name? But I think it's critical. What about you, Zach?
Well, so I said this last year, something that, as you were talking and Brian posed a question and Rachel was talking about, I thought about this. So yeah, I do blog, but I always say I'd rather have 3,000 micro conversations on Twitter or in a network, definitely above like, oh, great post, but like, oh, I thought that was interesting because X. I would rather have 3,000 of those than the equative time it takes to write a blog. But I don't do I don't do that to the exclusion of writing blogs. I also think that if you don't share your blog, and this is true if you're a brand or an individual, if you like write the blog, you make that the deliverable in your life, and you post it, and you're like, you share it that 1 or 2 times, and you're like, I did it, I blogged, it's done, and you don't go back and share that in unique, fresh ways over a course of time, gosh, people just don't find it. Google is so mean these days with its algorithm, and the Twitter stream is pretty fast, so just don't be afraid to share your stuff in fresh ways multiple times over the course of time. People are usually more blessed that they saw an opportunity to read it than they are, oh, I think I saw something about that blog yesterday. They would rather have the opportunity to click on it again because finding it's really tough.
Yeah, I like that idea. Sorry, go ahead, Rachel. No, I said I like that idea because I've done that a couple of times recently, and it's kind of nice that you can go back and look at something that maybe you even wrote 2 years ago and sort of say, I can update this, or hey, this actually holds true even more so today than it did when I wrote it, or when I wrote it, hey, things have changed a bit. But it is nice to be able to contextualize again, and I found that people do appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of repurposing, especially if it's an older post that is still evergreen, the content's still relevant. You can reformat it into a SlideShare, or like use Canva, one of Brian's tools, and make a little great graphic to share one of your key points. We're so fortunate to be able to break up a blog post into multiple mediums.
And honestly, do we care? Like, I mean, other than if the content itself is totally irrelevant, right? And we click on it, but do we honestly care what the published date is? I mean, when I Google search, if I'm looking up something on a conference or something, or you know, an industry thing, and I get like 3 good articles, I could care less if you know, as long as it's relevant content, if one was written 2011, 2012, or 2014. So I think, gosh, people don't care so much when it was published. Just was it evergreen, like you're saying, Rachel, and like you were saying, John. You know, if the author took time to just update a couple little pieces, little notes, yeah, it's great. Just share it.
I think if the post is more of a tactical strategy type post, I think you can take something from a couple years ago. However, if it's the tip and trick for a platform, I would be very careful to note the date.
Yeah, no, I was
things do
thinking
change so
like a
quickly.
brand. You know, if you are social selling for a brand, but if we're talking about social selling, yeah, gosh, things are changing fast.
Well, I always kind of quote that, you know, if there's data or you're talking about a feature, you know, having a data is important. But I almost like sometimes wonder why some people that it's like a I mean, some of my favorite people that I read, like I read Brian Solis' stuff on a daily, you know, basis. Anything he puts out, I read it immediately. And so funny, I'll read something from him from 2013 that is just insight on just the logic of, you know, total thinking or leadership in general. And I'm like, that thing should never have a date on it because, you know, unfortunately, some people aren't going to read it because they're going to think it's out of date. But I mean, I told him on one of his 2013 posts, I posted it last week because I made a brand new Canva graphic, added his 8 facts to it, and reshared it. And he was like, hey, why did you do that? I was like, 'cause I want everybody to see this document again. I'm afraid that by just linking it or using the title, they're going to see the damn date and then eject.
Right. No, and that's true. And so people have all this content. Gosh, when I go to people's sites, like if I'm looking at a brand and I go to their site and I look at their tweet links. Now, that doesn't tell you the whole story from the outside, but it tells you a little something. So if I see 2 tweets, seriously, and it's 2011 when this thing got posted. Any gasoline, social gasoline you can throw onto that little smoldering fire is probably a blessing and not a curse. So, despite whoever owns that content stream internally, you're just helping them. And so yeah, throw a new picture on it, create a quick graphic like you're saying, and help them out. I mean, it's only going to drive more traffic to their site, right?
No, yeah, I agree. I think that's partially what I mean.
And I think it's also, I was going to say, I think it's also interesting even for ourselves to go back and look at some of the things you wrote over the past few years and see how, you know, how much of it holds true today or how correct you are. In fact, I think I'm going to go back at some stage and look at all my stuff and try and find something where I was totally off base, because that might be really interesting.
Yeah, actually, that's a perfect. So Jay Baer gave the keynote this past Friday at Social Fresh, and he said his opening line was he was talking about shotgun versus rifle approach for marketing, and he goes, so you can go to my website, and if you look at my name, about 2 years ago, you're going to read 3 or 4 blogs that are the exact opposite of this presentation. You know, and I was like, wow, you know, but he was like, you know, his approach, he's like, the social world has changed, the consumption of blogging and data has changed, and now, and I wanted to go back and ask him, like, did someone, you know, bring that to his attention that kind of, you know, give him the motivation for that? Or, you know, like, I almost would like a, you know, it's a great way to put your old blog inside and say, okay, I was so wrong about this, but, you know, this is what's changed, because I think that's kind of important.
Yeah, I can see there's going to be a whole raft of I was wrong blogs coming up from people in the next week or two.
That's a good one. Which is, everyone should post it with hashtags. I was wrong.
SSR, yeah.
Awesome.
That would be great.
Okay, moving on to question 8, quality versus quantity. How important are vanity metrics when you're first building your brand?
Yeah, that's a huge one. I mean,
yeah. I'd say, yeah, I was just going to say, personally, you know, I try to keep my vanity in check, because, I mean, I am a big believer in quality over quantity, and where it's nice to, you know, get lots of connection requests and things like that. I mean, I think you have to be purposeful in what you're doing, and you have to be careful. I think it's better to have, I think, as you said, I mean, it's better to have 10 people connected with you, who are engaged with you, and who are a good network and have good things to say or whatever than it is to have 400 vanity connections.
Yeah, I would agree with you, John. Quality over quantity, but at the same time, not to the detriment. I think that's what you're pointing out. Not to the. I mean, we are growing our individual businesses and brands, and we are working with businesses to grow, not shrink, right? Their influence or reach. So yeah, I definitely want to show that. But we all know sort of inside tips and tricks how to, like, if we wanted to, we could grow these vanity metrics, but then, you know, that's not really doing anything ultimately for the brand when it comes time to convert an individual follower to a relationship, because you know, I have some folks that actually complain about the growth that I'm working with. You know, we're having a lot of folks follow us on Twitter that maybe aren't in our industry, and the way I always put it to them is like, well, look, it's not up to us to decide who gets to follow us, but we do get to decide who we follow and who we promote. So take it as it comes, enjoy it. It spreads your network. It may increase the net. You may grab some of these folks that you do want to reach, but don't worry about it. We aren't going after them. These folks that maybe are outside your industry, but just take it. Hey, it's good.
Yeah, I think part of it, you know, comes back to that whole theme here with, you know, attracting attention. Like, I mean, I don't know how many quality blogs I will quote or I'll talk about, and if it's someone in my industry and I'm talking to them, I'm building a relationship, and I quote a blog post and they have no idea what the blog post was, I'm like, man, and I feel like I did a bad job, because, you know, like, and that's just weird, but it's because I didn't write the article. But if I want my community to understand and listen to a blog that I believe not only is along the same thinking but can empower me in a sales conversation, I want to make sure that I'm getting it in front of them. That's usually me posting it more than once on LinkedIn, or if I have to create my own graphic, you know, that's me getting someone else's content that I think provides value in front of the people that I know need to listen. Yeah, this is a good one. Emma from on Twitter put, you know, relationship implies a two-way street, though. Acknowledge their value to you. That's a big one. You know, I Dunkin' Donuts was presenting. Jessica from Dunkin' Donuts was presenting at the event last week, and she talked about how often, you know, they have a lucky thing that people love their brand, but they want their fans to continue to feel like they're listening, so they go out of their way to engage and do little things. I think sales is like that. You know, like, I can't tell you how many times these, you know, someone's pitching me on enterprise tools, and if they've never ever, you know, reached out or even know that I have, you know, they say, oh, I've been following you on Twitter forever, and I go click to see if they've ever retweeted or shared or liked or favorited a single thing of mine, and they haven't. You know, like, to me, that's a little bit of like, well, you've been following me, but apparently you don't care that much about what I'm posting. All right, and Kevin posted, quality content by its true nature will attract attention.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. And to be honest, it's also normally it's going to attract the right attention. So you're not going to get a load of people, you know, coming who are kind of not that interested. You're only going to get the right people with the quality content. So I think you probably actually get both sides of the equation there. You get some quantity and you get quality.
All right, question number 9, Rachel. We on that? All right, so how can you duplicate the wow power of a handwritten note on social? And this is 100% Rachel's question, and I absolutely love it. What a great question.
I guess you could handwrite a note. You could scan it, turn it into a picture.
Well, you know, for me, I think what I end up doing is I like to, you know, rather than just saying thank you to a follower, you know, like, I will, if they have a great post, why don't I take the 5 minutes and, you know, look at, either read other posts or look at other, and I even, so Brian Solis, I mentioned him, I'm a big fan of his stuff, and I saw that, you know, he posted a great article and he has 3 genius quotes in there, and what I did was, rather than just sharing it because I wanted to show him that I cared, I liked it that much, is I went and created a recite this graphic, which takes like 3.5 seconds because it's copy paste, you know, and then I reposted it out, and he messaged me back immediately and said that he loved that and I thought that was great value. And to me, it was like, if I just rather than just hitting a retweet, which is, you know, gets seen in his normal stream, I spent 3.5 seconds to go a little bit above and beyond, and that value, you know, is worth it in the long run, in my opinion.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I just piggybacking on what you're saying, Brian. I like to. It's just a simple thing, but gosh, if just scroll their Twitter feed, maybe it's. Let's talk about Twitter. If it's Twitter, right, and somebody's followed you, and maybe they reached out to you, the way you can show them you care, especially in a B2B situation, is you take that brand and you go find that business and you look in their Twitter stream for something that relates to your business or would relate to your community, and you share it and you add a picture to it, and oh my goodness, the people on their content strategy side are like, oh, wait, what? This is amazing. This other company took the time to add to our value and share us into their whole, their whole network. It just resonates. And if you're talking about blogs, gosh, if it's an individual, gosh, click on their blog and go in there and grab a quote and share it. It literally takes what Brian's saying, 3-5 seconds. And then you benefit from it too because you learn something.
And John, this is good. I have kind of a question for this on you. Like, so for me, I'm not an author yet for a blog, my own book, but sharing when someone shares, promotes your book, and and even if it's just clicking on the tweet that says after they buy it on Amazon, and it says, hey, I bought this, you should buy that. Like, I often find, like, if I'm really getting value from someone's blog, even if I haven't read their book yet, I'm gonna go and like share and say, hey, this is probably a good book to read because I find such value in their blog. And I know that's the sell there is probably easier, but getting someone, I mean, does that attract attention to you, John, as someone like an author side, like someone that's promoting your book beyond just promoting just like your blog posts?
Oh yeah, without a doubt, and those are the people I try to engage. I engage directly with them, and I always like to ask people when they do that. What are things in particular that you found interesting in the book, and how are you using them? And some people actually give me updates every so often on how they're leveraging it, which is nice. And then sometimes I try to send them other things. And just in answer to the question in general, I think the closest thing to a handwritten note often is to send them something. I'll see, do I have a white paper, do I have an article, do I have something that's pertinent to them that I think they'll find useful, so I send that as an attachment, or say here's something extra. But yeah, I always try to give back, particularly to those people who are kind enough to promote me.
And don't forget Tweet a Coffee.
I was just thinking that. I almost tweeted that out just now because I was thinking that from your interview last week. Handwritten note. It's my soapbox and my philosophy is on show you care, and Tweet Coffee is a great way to show you care. The reason that we love swag and stickers and cute little notes is because of it's someone's going above and beyond to show they care. So, all right, we have 7 minutes left. We're on question 10 there. What's the number one most effective thing you can do to boost engagement on social?
I think that actually comes back to a lot of what we were just talking about in the last question. It's showing you care and showing you're actually listening and paying attention and being genuine and transparent. Gets you a long way in social.
Yeah, I agree, and I also think just to actually getting engaged, going beyond just following or connecting, but actually becoming, getting engaged and seeing what you can contribute. And I think that's the biggest way. It's the contributors, I think, are the ones who build the best networks quickly.
Yeah, and I think
it's so important. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, just on this whole concept of reaching out, right? So a lot of times we think about this from a brand perspective. It's that they have found your brand and they retweet something that that you've done a blog or something, and then you reach out, right? You're like, oh, hey, thanks for retweeting that blog. What'd you like? But what if you were proactive? What if you actually went out to them first as a brand, found something on their blog before they followed you, and shared their content and said, thanks for writing that. We appreciate that in this industry. Oh my goodness. I mean, from the side of the person or the other brand, they're like, wow, okay, you've got my attention. Yeah, so reach out first.
Yeah, one of the other ones I found that I don't know if it's a current trend, but it's something that's been, if I +1 or like something on Facebook or Google+, someone will comment in the comments, usually the author or the brand or even an employee, and say, hey, thanks for the +1. I'm glad you agreed with our post. And then they add a conversation, like the call to action afterwards, and it's so funny. My chance, the times that I'm going back and writing a comment is 100%. Like, because I saw that they acknowledged that I hit like or plus. It happened today. I should give her a shout out because I liked her post on Facebook. She immediately replied like, "Thanks, Brian. I really appreciate that. The fact that you liked it means a lot to me. What was your favorite element of the article or whatever?" And I immediately was like, "Wait, I was like, oh, I just liked it." So then I wrote like a paragraph and a half, and not only did I know that she cared enough that I liked it, but she wanted to continue the conversation with me, which is important in my opinion.
Yeah, that's actually a great tip going back to our earlier discussion about Google+. If you are having trouble boosting engagement, if you are lucky enough to get people +1ing your posts, definitely write them back with a question they need to answer. Seems like it's a fantastic way to increase engagement.
Yes, 100%. And I also, I mean, I joke a lot of times saying that, it doesn't cost anything for a brand to hit the favorite button. Sometimes it's just something little like that. Knowing, So I think, so who was it? One of the brands said they get, I think it might have been the PGA. They get something like on a weekend, they get 150 people use their hashtag or their @ 150 times every 30 seconds throughout the day. I mean, and so like it would be impossible to like and favorite and all of that, but they do use analytics and tools to see ones that are like active conversations or that are there more than once, and they make sure to call them out, say thank you, or even attract to them when it's not that busy Saturday and Sunday. And I thought that was crazy because I was like, I can't imagine that much I mean, there's no way you're gonna hit favorite to. You have to have like spidey senses to hit favorite to all that.
So we only have a few minutes left. I'm going to give a quick shout out to a couple of people on Twitter. Beth
Awesome.
Daniel and the Think SEM team have been sending out some amazing tweets. So if you're not following them, please do. They've had some phenomenal answers to today's questions.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. It's been a great stream. I can going through the dialogue, and I think that's partially kind of ending it on here. And I'll throw it to Zach and John. Like the social selling concept. There's so many people that have asked me kind of like, hey, when it goes to social selling, is it something that we're doing different, or is it something that we just need to do what we do offline? We just need to translate it online. I think that's a lot of the conversation that we're trying to build. So I'll kind of leave that last comment I'll go to you, Zach, first.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, so we do say that the basic principles of being nice and being helpful and asking good questions and listening and all these good communication techniques that we'd use, say, at a conference or in a one-on-one phone conversation, they all apply. I think what SS Hour we're trying to do here, it seems, is say, okay, well, how does that work into these specific tools, right, or these platforms? And how do you get attention is our theme. So you want the right kind of attention, and the right kind of attention is by taking time to reach out into people's lives before they reach out to yours, and be a blessing and not a curse to them, and add value, and then yeah, and somebody said this is something somebody said that I do well that I didn't actually think of as something, and I think we all can do it. It's just have a good memory. Remember people. People want to be remembered, right? So if somebody said something a couple weeks ago and it pops into your head, remember them publicly, and oh my goodness, it makes you feel great when somebody remembers you.
What was the question again?
Just the idea of
No, I'm joking.
Okay, good.
No, I think that's a great tip from Zach there about remembering. I think that is, I think people totally do appreciate that. The social selling, I think traditional selling skills matter. You still have to have fundamental skills, because you need to be able to uncover needs. You need to be able to develop those. You need to not to offer solutions too early and all of that. Typical things that you see people doing on social media all the time. I mean, I'm sure your LinkedIn in-mail box is full of people who gave you a nice note to connect with you, kind of fooled you into thinking that they were genuine, and the minute you hit the connection button, you got followed up with the pitch email on their product or service. So those still count. I think that where it's different now is I just think it's different in the level of research that you need to do, and then you need to be more subtle with how you connect and advance a conversation, and it's different. Those are the different things. So I think fundamental selling skills are absolutely matter, because I think if you don't have fundamental selling skills, all you're going to use social media platforms is to show an exponentially larger audience that you can't sell. And
that's awesome.
And then when you engage, you need to learn the tools and the skills, the research and the listening skills in a virtual environment, that in order to build solid connections, and you need to find new ways of adding value.
No, yeah, I agree. I think that's kind of where we kind of leave off there. And thank everybody for on Twitter, and Rachel for running the show there and the questions. We are getting more guest requests and people wanting to come on and kind of share their stories and share like the social selling side. So, please hit us up. We're going to try to continue the Google Plus Hangouts during the Twitter chats, to kind of like the mutual dialogue. And we're getting some. I think I have 13 people on Google Plus that said that they didn't even know that it was available, but if they knew we were doing a Google Plus Hangout, not just a Twitter chat, that they would love to join the conversation. So I think I'm going to do a little bit better job of promoting and sharing that on the Google Plus side myself, so that we get more engagement there. But thank you guys as always, and I think that's the key quote of the entire time there comes from you, Zach. There, it's the to be memorable, you have to remember people. That's the one. Rachel just tweeted it out, and I think that's a good walking.
I gotta retweet that
for sure.
Yeah,
so
before I forget.
Same bat channel.
Quote for the day.
Yeah.
Yep, quote of the day for sure. So same bat channel, same bat time next week. I will see you then.
All right,
Bye everyone.
Bye-bye.